Now, one person we did hear from today for the first time, Karen Reed herself, doubling down, of course, saying she did not do this. She wants to know who did.
Said it feels we're the only ones fighting for the truth of what happened to John O'Keefe. And me and my family and my attorneys and my team have marshaled every resource to get to the truth. It just feels like no one else wants it.
Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
And no, she didn't do it. No, she didn't do it. This is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
I tried to save his life.
Yeah.
I tried to save his life at 6 in the morning. I was covered in the only one trying to save his life.
Why'd you admit to it?
She didn't admit to it. She didn't admit to anything close to that. Nothing close to that. And you should know that.
That was like 3 or 4 times she admitted to it.
No, she didn't.
That's not true.
She asked a question. She asked a question, which is very different. She didn't admit to anything.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record. Okay. How is everybody? Still in such a good mood. Call this the Gascon, George Gascon, the former, you can now call him the former DA of Los Angeles. He's out of office. Still in such a good mood from that. We're talking about Karen Reed today and what is an implosion of the Free Karen Reed movement. And the man who Karen Reed trusted to helm her stupid taillight project, meaning Sean McDonough, I'm talking about, has started to tell on the Free Karen Reed movement, has parted ways with Turtle Boy, and did a blow-up show aiming fire at everyone except Karen Reed. So it's like, I'm angry at this person, that person, this person, but Karen Reed, you're innocent. Just come forward. He doesn't know what's stopping Karen Reed from coming forward. And last night he was on Kate Albert's program, Mass Hall Troll Mafia, for a couple hours, talking about the whole Free Karen Reed movement, what's behind it, how he didn't really believe that Karen Reed was totally behind everything that Turtle Boy talks about or talked about on his show, meaning he couldn't believe all the leaks. But it's right there. You can go back in my programs. It's right there. And we're going to talk about it today. I'm going to tell you my feelings and where I think there are blind spots on both sides of the supporters and non-supporters as far as Karen Reed is considered, and some real lacking in the movement. One of the things that came out in the show is that it appears there's been rumors that Michael Proctor, the police officer who investigated the case along with Sergeant Buchanan, he may have been fired by the Massachusetts State Police. And this just enrages me that the police have folded to this innocence fraud campaign. And this is what they do. They go after really good police officers. They don't go after the bad ones. They go after the ones that have nailed the offender. That's the ones they go after. And once they successfully go after them, in one case, then they can undo all the other cases that they were a part of and call it a pattern in practice. And I still hear people talking about Michael Proctor like, well, that's proof that there was some kind of conspiracy. Where's the conspiracy in angry text messages? And if I killed someone in this way, I would expect a police officer to talk about me in this way, behind my back. I wouldn't expect them to be talking about me in glowing terms. I would expect them to call me a see you next Tuesday. If I ran over my police officer boyfriend 24 miles an hour in reverse, never once touching the brake with my infotainment system beeping at me. I mean, are we forgetting what our cars are like? Our cars are like another limb of our body. We're in them all the time, unless you live in New York like I do. But I remember when I used to drive regularly. You could not ignore. It's like an infotainment system beeping louder and louder the closer you get to your police officer boyfriend standing there, flashing in red. It's like someone yelling, danger, danger in your ear a million times over, louder and louder each time. You couldn't ignore it. So what are we talking about here? Like, I'm still 34 Fairview is like, well, the new podcast on Karen Reed. Well, maybe she hit him by mistake. Whoops. Maybe it should be manslaughter. Maybe she didn't mean to do it. Maybe we can't prove she meant to do it. Do you understand the significance of never touching the brake? The significance of a infotainment system beeping at you over and over and over again? I mean, I just feel like so many people need a slap in their face with reality here. It's like we got fantasists on both sides of the fence. I don't think Karen Reed, and we have William Phelps going, she's not a psychopath. Really? Really, you know that, William Phelps? Because she sure seems like a psychopath to me. Sure checks off a lot of boxes. She's just a confused woman who likes to harass witnesses and disparage her victim's family. Really? Really? That's what you think? She's just a confused woman coincidentally spearheading a campaign of terror. Coincidentally. I'm just like over this. It's like too much stupidity. I can't handle it. It's not even stupidity. It's like sheer blindness to reality. If you want to call that stupidity, maybe. Heisenberg says, when Sean called out Karen, LTL Media, is infuriated that he's calling out her side. The honeymoon for the brainwashed is over. Is it over? I mean, all he did is really make himself public enemy number one. And I mean, we'll take a look at it today. I'll tell you what I think. I think what he did, I mean, I understand the impulse to say, we can be friends, we can disagree, but there really is no friendship on that side of the fence. We can agree to disagree. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to be friends with someone who is okay with spearheading a campaign of terror against the witnesses and the family in this case. I mean, I think that can be true in other true crime stories. Certainly we can agree to disagree. But in this case, once you join the Free Karen Reed movement, you're saying it's okay with me. It's okay to harass witnesses. It's okay to disparage and boo the victim's family and treat them terribly and re-victimize them. I'm not on board with that. I don't want to know you if you've been a part of that. I'm sorry. That's how I feel. That's a red flag. And a red flag I can't ignore. So let's get to your comments before we get into anything. We were going over Karen Reed's what I think will be a failed attempt to get the heaviest charges thrown out against her in Massachusetts' highest court yesterday. And you guys had some things to say about that, some things about Alan Jackson's beard. Let's get into it.
We got you coming. You had something to say. You were insightful. Oh, so clever. So Roberta's going to read your comments. Hey, Roberta, read those comments.
All right. Comment 1 comes from Roz 805. This was not a reasonable nor persuasive presentation by the defense to win elimination of any charges against Karen Read. The effort to attach extrajudicial powers to the judge to inquire about the jury deliberations is ludicrous. The jury is limited to argument presented by counsel in court, not the judge. Almost sounds like a lawyer, doesn't it? It almost sounds like a lawyer wrote that. Yeah, and it was pretty shocking yesterday when one of the judges asked, more than once, I believe, what case law do you have to support your argument to Karen Read's defense lawyer? And he was like, none. Sorry. I got 2 cases, but nothing specific. They're looking to, I don't know, create some kind of precedence with that. Devil's Advocate 47 says, I've never seen a man who cannot wear a beard. Alan Jackson looks so uncomfortable wearing a beard. It's hilarious. Also, Maui Swift 6391 says they had no federal case law to support their arguments. That, of course, denied. That's where I think it's going to, Maui Swift. So yeah, pretty much in unison with that. But let's take a look Let's take a look at Sean on Masshold Troll Mafia yesterday. There are sound issues, so headphone wearers beware. Kate is a little loud and Sean's a little quiet. So I tried to even it out best I could, but let's take a listen to what happened yesterday. Oh, can I add it?
Let's put a pin in that.
Yeah. Oh, let me go back to the beginning.
So Sean, thanks for joining us. This is a very brave thing for you to do. I know you got a little bit of fun.
Absolutely brave, yeah.
Hey, I was saying back in the green room, I just wish this was June of 2023 before I wrote.
So that's Kate's co-anchor Boomer, and he's like this dark figure in the middle. You don't even know he's there, and he just comes on like this, like literally this booming voice from beyond. Just kind of knocked my socks off for a second.
To Alina and Brian Alba. I sent the letter to Brian. I was a newbie back then. I didn't know from Shiola.
Right.
I wish this right here, we could go back in time. But here we are. And I want to thank you, Kate, for extending the olive branch. Why can't we talk?
I know you caught some flack, and I think we talked. And, I just want this to be open. I know you got your people. I got mine. Some of us are... Right. Some of us are meeting in the middle here for a little bit. So, my people, we'll ask you some questions, and it's, it was the same can go for me. And we've agreed that we're just going to be honest, right, and open, and, have a dialogue here, which I think is
right.
Great to do.
And I want my people to know, I already gave a message. You support me, be respectful. This is a moment that we can make some kind of headway, no matter what it is. But to be on opposite sides, battling and battling. Listen, Rogue, he said it the other night in his first thing. Just want peace.
Mm-hmm.
Who would ever thought he would be like, kids, peace. I just want peace. I'm all for it.
Right. Okay, call me suspicious. Call me skeptical here. But I mean, poor Kate is called, they seem like obsessed with her vagina over there in Free Karen Reed land, constantly calling her demeaning and dehumanizing names. And why I think they do it is because Kate is can be a really powerful voice for against Karen Reed. You notice that they only go against the really powerful players, right? Proctor, Jen McCabe, the people that got Karen suddenly become enemy number one in this case. And I would include, Kate. I don't agree with her when she talks about manslaughter. I think you need your head examined. I don't know what she's talking about. I mean, we can go over what the difference between manslaughter and why it's murder too, and why she was charged with murder too, and why I don't feel she was overcharged. But every time I hear Kate or anyone else say, oh no, they overcharged her. Manslaughter is like when there's no ill intent, like you did it by accident. And when you don't touch the brake and you're going 24 miles an hour in reverse, it's really hard. And your infotainment system is flashing, which is like just akin to someone yelling, danger, danger, you're going to hit something. And when you tell your father you hit something and you never got out to check out what it is, the only reason you wouldn't get out to check out what it is because you already know. You already know, which means you did it on purpose. And you have to know when you back up your car 24 miles an hour in reverse, never once touching the brake, that you could kill someone. And when you leave them there to die in the snow and to freeze to death, and don't tell anyone he's there, you have to know that you are potentially causing death, which is why it's murder too. It's not manslaughter. Manslaughter is like accidental. There's nothing about this that was an accident. I mean, look at the way Karen Reed does things. You think she impulsively? Look at the way she's spearheaded her campaign. Has she impulsively spearheaded her campaign? Or is she carefully crafted her campaign? Nefariously from behind the scenes, constantly protecting herself and giving herself plausible deniability. What a perfect way to kill someone, to accidentally back them up in the snow like you didn't know if you wanted to kill your police officer boyfriend. It's like the way she does everything. I mean, lest we forget Karen Reed's text message to Sean. Aiden is a risk. I'm just going to go to the bottom here. Aiden is a risk. I have been so careful to lay low, and he blows it all up. Last month, they took my phone that I've had for 2 years. It had tons on it. And that's all from the Lindsay mess. I can't expose myself to that anymore. So there she's protecting herself. Protecting herself with encrypted apps, protecting herself with Natalie, a middle woman. So she gives directions to Natalie. She leaks stuff through Natalie to Turtle Boy to give herself plausible deniability, a little bit of a buffer. I mean, this is why all these things are so important. Why Karen Reed's character is so important in the whole murder of John O'Keefe, and to understand it fully. And when I hear people on this side saying, oh, she didn't mean to hit him. Really? What makes you think she didn't know she didn't hit him and didn't mean to hit him? What about her behavior says I didn't mean it or it was an accident? when you don't ever talk to the family again and you come back to John O'Keefe's house like a burglar and start calling his friends through his niece saying, oh, he may have gotten hit by a plow. Can you help me look for him? Because those were her marks. Jen and Carrie Roberts were her marks. She was ready to go back to that scene. Anyway, I just want to show you. So, looks like Turtle Boy, speaking of the end of this, there is a point here. Hope you're following me. Turtle Boy and M. William Phelps, who has the 34 Fairview podcast, are starting a rivalry. I want to say it's like the Beatles Stones, but I wouldn't put either one of them up at that level of Beatles Stones, but meaning I use that rivalry analogy to mean like we'll be rivals and we'll both make money through the rivalry. So Aiden is saying, hey, Phelps, you're such a P word and an enabler of a cop killer, and I've researched your past too. This isn't the first time. Stay tuned. So episode 4 is described as Karen Reed is desperate. Is she? And in full-fledged blame someone else mode as police zero in on her Lexus, impound the vehicle, and begin to put together a strong case proving she was drunk and knowingly or not with or without intent struck John O'Keefe. Like, oh, she just might not have even known she hit him. That's a new one. Who's arguing that? And she says like a billion times, I hit him, I hit something. Did I hit him? Is he dead? Could I have hit him? Remember the quote I read yesterday where she's like, was I abusive? Or did we just have our ups and downs? Meaning your relationship with John O'Keefe. Who wonders about that if you weren't abusive? Think about your last relationship and really, do you wonder, was I abusive? Do you really worry about that when you weren't? All right. It's like someone who knows she's like leaking out things with what is preceded by a did and preceded by a question mark. It's plausible deniability, always protecting herself. Get into the mindset of Karen Reed. It's a dark place, but you have to get into it to understand this case. Meanwhile, Turtle Boy, under Karen's manipulating direction, meaning Turtle Boy was just a willing dupe and not a psychopath himself, continues his campaign to paint lead investigator Michael Proctor and witness Jennifer McCabe as the two people behind some sort of elaborate conspiracy that is becoming harder each day for most to believe, but a lot do, including Vanity Fair writer Julie Miller. I don't know if she believes it or not, but she's fully on board team killer, as she always is, team cop killer. So there you go. So they're starting a little rivalry, M. William Phelps, and I believe, 40% of the proceeds, according to Turtle Boy, go to him from the 34 Fairview podcast. Why? I mean, that should be a red flag to anyone on this side of the fence, that 40% of the proceeds are going to Turtle Boy. You should be like, no, thank you. No, thanks. I'll pass. Anyone willing to give that guy with how many witness felony counts? Is it 18, 19 against him? You know how he operates? I mean, they're just like two peas in a psychopathic pod, Karen and Aiden. Heisenberg says, Karen said she felt she struck something. There was 2 opportunities for Karen to check. behind her vehicle and she didn't do it. Right. Because, she knew she hit something. She had already seen the damage. She already knew what was there. She didn't need to check it when she knew what she did. And it was just about hiding it. All right, back to Sean.
Yep,
Man, absolutely.
Boomer, the other stuff's got to stop. I'm telling you. I mean,
Yep.
I'm talking about my side.
Yeah.
It's got to stop. It's got to stop. But
Yeah,
thank
so
you, Kate.
Did you see the other day that they found Brian Albert in a hospital cafeteria, for lack of a better word? There, we're screaming at him in a blowhorn. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I did see that.
I mean, come on. No, of course I don't agree with that. And can I make a public apology? I got two to make before I tell you, I'll start getting. If I don't get this out, I'll be remiss. I'm going to steal a little play from Kevin Lenahan, and I want to publicly apologize for not being a man enough to stand up to that fool when he called Mrs. O'Keefe the C word.
Really? Is Kevin starting to publicly apologize? Because he still hasn't been apologized for lying about me. I'm still waiting for that apology. Any day now, it's coming. Hey, Kevin, how about apologizing? I'm sorry I said, Roberta, you lived a double life as writing a blog and keeping a full-time Rumble account and a full-time Twitter account too going. Sorry I mistook you for Innocence Fraud Watch. I'm sorry I consistently said over and over again that somehow I'd want to keep a blog not in my own name, but that I just want to keep two things going at once. My own channel, which I have enough trouble keeping all these plates in the air, but I'd want to do Innocence Fraud Watch blog and my Twitter account and keep a Twitter account under that name too, and a Rumble account. Where's the apology? Where's the apology for accusing me of being dishonest and saying that my real problem was with Grant? Never mind, I had blocked Grant at the time and my own issues with Grant. I was upset. He's like, this you guys should see the email he wrote me. It is some unbelievable stuff. You know the real reason you did it. I know how you feel more than you do. I know your true feelings more than you do. Come to know the truth. Look within yourself. You know it's true. You know I was upset. You know what happened. Where's the apology, Kevin? This is set for one reason and one reason alone. Didn't think it was a good idea for you who claim to be championing justice for John O'Keefe to be hosting a murderer from prison on your channel as a profiler for his insights. How you get inside a killer's brain is anyone's guess. I thought it was poor, an example of some really crappy true crime media you were producing on your channel, and I said it. That was the only issue. Where's my apology? When's that coming?
Day in, day out. And you know something? That's my bad, right? That's my bad. And I feel so bad that I didn't have enough cojones to step up. It's not that I didn't. It's just that I should have, because I didn't agree with that at all. And if Mrs. O'Keefe is what, you remind me so much of my mother. You gave him the finger, and I'll tell you, my mother would have taken that little head off. No, and you know something? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
And he said the other night, he's defending Mrs. O'Keefe. Well, Jesus Christ. She's a grieving mother. 2 children she's had to bury, and her son-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna call, and I'm called me. And one more.
Well, Sean knows that this is the audience who's going to feel for this. Of course, we all feel for Peggy O'Keefe. But this is just coming to you now, Sean. You just figured out now that wasn't a good idea to disparage Peggy O'Keefe. And good for Peggy O'Keefe for giving Turtle Boy the finger. Good for her.
Karen McCormick, I'm sorry. The hair, I have no problem with your hair. It's just like, okay. It's just one of those things. But I want to publicly apologize to Karen McCormick about your hair.
He said Karen True Crimes Wine's hair was a mop. Okay. I mean, it's just childish. It was a childish rant. I heard that his last time he was on the air, his wife was like pounding on the door, telling him to be quiet. Like some full blown Rupert Pupkin stuff. Heisenberg says, since she knew she hit something twice, the motive was clear about why she got close to his car. The right taillight was damaged before backing out. Exactly. Thank you, Heisenberg, for reminding me. She loves to stage things, record things, make her own evidence, and so does Turtle Boy. They're alike in that way. And that is the aim of innocence fraud everywhere, every time, is to make something look like something it's not. So, I mean, on its face, innocence fraud is to make an innocent person, make a guilty person appear to be innocent. But when you get into the evidence, it's what was the point of the federal investigation? Just to make it look like on the surface something nefarious might be going on, because they know most people aren't going to do their due diligence and aren't going to go look for the facts. Like what was the results of that investigation? Just to have an investigation going is enough to say, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. They must be investigating something. Something terrible must be going on besides Michael Proctor calling Karen, rightfully, in my opinion, a see you next Tuesday.
I think it's beautiful. Just, get it off your face a little bit. That's it, right? That's it. Thank you, Kate. Oh, I'm serious.
Fair enough.
The family's gotten a lot of slack, and I mean, I appreciate, the O'Keefe family, from my perspective, anyways, and like they're normal people, right? And they didn't ask for any of this. They were not the ones banging the drums looking for media attention. They're a good, Irish Catholic family, right? That raised good kids and have endured an immense amount of, trauma and tragedy in their lifetime. And they didn't ask for any of this. This is not their world. And they just got dragged into this social media online bullshit, right? And they can't even walk into court with a little bit of peace and decorum and dignity at this point, right? Since this whole thing started, that was one of the first things that was mobilized. And, from my perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, not only by Turtle Boy and Amy Harney, but it would seem to me from everything I've seen that Karen Reed had a lot to do with it too. And I just wonder why, why the family? At any point, when she's writing her social media comments or hugging her fans or, doing her press conferences on the steps, in my opinion, she could say, you know what, I love this man, I lost him, please leave his family alone. And she's never done that.
Right. But of course she's not. Of course she's going to make the family, Jennifer McCabe, you, Michael Proctor, anyone who's a powerful voice is going to be public enemy number one. How can they not get this? They're sitting there scratching their heads being like, I don't understand why she has to go after the family. Why can't she defend herself? Because they all do it. Amanda Knox, don't get me started on her today. West Memphis 3, Damien Echols gave the finger to the family because they know that the family's voice is the most powerful voice. Anybody in the O'Keefe family, friends of John O'Keefe, anyone wants to come on this platform, you always have a place on this platform. The O'Keefe family should be giving interviews, in my opinion, as a family, as many interviews as possible. So their voice is the most powerful. And also there's the ones that know that Karen Reed's guilty. And we're going to revisit Paul O'Keefe's interview in a second. It was great, but it's not the same as having the entire family there. And I'm talking, nieces, nephew, whole family's got to give interviews as a whole family. And it's hard to do when you're so broken up and destroyed and grieving. But unfortunately, it's necessary when John O'Keefe can no longer speak. There has to be as many voices out there, and the most powerful voice always is the family. I mean, for those of you followed my work on the Adelsons, why did Charlie Adelson not want? I mean, you look at the reaction to when the victim's family speaks. It's always the most powerful voice. And it speaks clearly to the killer's guilt every single time. And it's always the most persuasive. So for them to be scratching their heads, I mean, let's look at Karen Reed's comment to Vanity Fair for a moment. The O'Keefes never carried a pitchfork for me until I started getting support. You didn't speak to any media. Now you're giving interviews. Not enough. Not enough interviews, guys. You really just can't stand my rising from the ashes. No, they can't stand the murderer constantly seeing their son's murderer be made into a victim and their son, the victim, or their uncle or their brother, the victim, totally obscured, forgotten, maligned, demeaned, diminished. Yeah, that's kind of a bummer for them. And to me, the story to be totally about the killer. It's a heartbreak, and it gets repeated again and again and again in every single innocence fraud campaign. I mean, I feel like, just take from watching these campaigns from year to year to year to year, each campaign, they're remarkably similar. Every time the victim's family is treated terribly, and the killer is treated like a celebrity. You really just can't stand my rising from the ashes. The only thing that changed is I started to come from a position of power. So she recognizes her own power. I've reached the point that, John, if you can hear me, I've done everything I can. I don't think your family can be saved. Meaning I can't manipulate the family. They can't be manipulated into believing that, they can't be manipulated into believing my conspiracy theory. They want to see me incarcerated. Yes, so do I. For the rest of my life. Yes, so do I. Despite never seeing any evidence, right? It's not that she didn't do it. It's that they haven't seen any evidence while you were alive that I mistreated you. It's not that she didn't mistreat him. It's that the family didn't see any evidence that she mistreated him. She kept that hidden, guys. We were dating for 2 years. Hold on, let me pull this out. And I've since eclipsed those 2 years. I'm going on 3, and I've got to save myself now. So she means she's been fighting this longer than she dated John O'Keefe. She really hates the O'Keefe family. I mean, you can't get from this how much she despises the O'Keefe family because they know the truth. They're a powerful voice against her. Same with Jennifer McCabe. Same with Michael Proctor. They have the goods. And you know who else? You know, they got the goods on her. They're going to be public enemy number one.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only
I
way
mean, whether.
Sorry,
Yeah.
well, I'm sorry.
No problem. I was just going to say that whether you think Karen is guilty, whether you think Karen is innocent, I don't see the reason or the need or any ends that make sense to me to be disparaging the mother like
Right.
that, like Mrs. O'Keefe. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, you can believe what you want, but why?
Right.
You know.
I can only speak for myself. In any dealing I ever had with Karen, whether it was like Signal or whatever, she has never disparaged that family ever. So, like I said, I don't
The
know.
problem with that is that, Sean, is we see text messages that she sent to Turtle Boy through Natalie,
There
where
you
she
go.
says things like, John's family sucks, you know, Peg O'Keefe is the C word, you know, F Paul O'Keefe, go after him. Like, that seems to me
No,
to be somebody
that's
who's attacking them, encouraging
yeah.
it, right?
Okay. Well, you know, listen, you guys, you know, say you guys, right? I mean, you're close to ground zero, right? You got the inside track. I don't. I can only tell you from my perspective that
Right. I was around people throwing the bombs. I didn't see where they landed, so it didn't affect me. But now that I'm on your show, I'm reminded of all the hurt that I caused. Oh, I'm sorry now. Being part of this big scam. But I'm still going to be a part of it because it brings me attention. And nobody would watch me if I said Karen Reed was guilty. So I'm going to just keep banging on and saying Karen Reed is innocent because that's where the money is and that's where the views are. That's where my platform is. I mean, I don't even know if this guy, Sean, really believes it. He seems to be in love with fantastical stories. And talk about hanging on, grasping at straws. We'll go over one of the things that he's grasping at in a second. But they're all like scratching their heads. They can't understand why the victim's family is being attacked here. Really? It makes perfect sense to me.
Any of those dealings, as limited as it was, I'm telling you, it was limited. Natalie gave the whole thing up to me, but it was limited. And listen, did I read everything? No. Maybe I missed it, but I can see here honestly to say in any of those dealings, I never heard her say that. And, you know, did it not happen? Part of possibly could have happened. So in her defense,
I'm happy to, you know, I can back that up. I can definitely send you
No, I don't need it.
messages. They're part of public record. I'm not sure that they're public record per se yet, but obviously they are lumped into because, you know, Turtle Boy's ongoing case. So I mean, they definitely are with the courts as well now. But like, yeah, I mean, we're not gonna, you know, that's the sort of stuff that, you know, gives maybe our side sort of, you know, a bad taste in our mouth about this whole thing. And I think you and I talked, you know, beforehand a little bit about how you can kind of split the two issues, right? Like, you know, you can believe that Karen is innocent of the murder of John O'Keefe, which I mean, I suppose technically I believe she's innocent of murder because I believe that she is guilty of manslaughter. That's my own personal opinion. But you can believe that she's not responsible while still conceding that, you know, this monster that she's created is gone too far.
I mean, I don't get this. I don't think she meant to do it. I think it was an accident. What about this, Kate, what about this screams accident? What about anything about Karen Reed screams, I didn't mean to do it? When she's purposely targeted every single person on the other side. Strategically. I mean, if anything, I don't think you could prove it, but if anything, you could argue murder won in this case. But come on, manslaughter? Like, whoops, she was just drunk out of her mind. She somehow had the wherewithal, right, at 5 a.m. to make another video of her hitting John's car to break her taillight, quote unquote, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But she just didn't mean to, guys. I just don't. You'll never hear me say she did this because she was so drunk. If anything, it just, you can talk to the people, listen to the testimony of the people around her. No one said she seemed so drunk. Listen to the police officers. No one said, oh, Karen Reed that morning, wow, she seemed so drunk. They're trained to look for that. First responders, no one said she seemed, I think she was play acting hysterics. Some people fell for that. And surprise, like, John, what happened? But she knew right where to look for him. No one else saw anything. Get me out of this car. Carrie. And then when she found him, she jumped on top of him and straddled him, never wiped the snow away from his mouth, straddled him, lifted up her shirt and his shirt. Talk about necrophilia. What are we talking about here? It's such a dark fact of this case. Her first impulse wasn't to wipe the snow away so he could breathe, but to straddle him and to get him warm by lifting up her shirt and his shirt. She didn't have any fear. Everyone else seemed to know that John O'Keefe was dead, but Karen Reed seemed to have no fear of a corpse. You guys getting that? Are you guys getting that? So dark. But what are these behaviors that you do in an accident? Never talk to the victim's family again?
And that, it's looking more and more every day like she may be guilty of conspiracy to commit witness intimidation, right? Because a lot of people have actually witnessed that. Whereas whatever happened that morning, in front of 34 Fairview or inside, depending who you ask, I guess, although I strongly disagree with that, definitely the stuff that's happened afterwards is, people have actually witnessed that. They, on one level or not, been part of it sometimes.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, you have things that your fingers on the pulse. All right. I got banished pretty quickly for obvious reasons. I think, Kate, you know why.
I don't actually understand. So, like, what do you feel comfortable explaining? Or
yeah, of course. All right.
Okay.
All right. I'm getting bored of this.
It goes back to the.
It goes back. They have issues. He's got issues. So he's defecting. Anyone else bored? I'm already bored. Who said it? Marianne is out. This guy just wants attention. I think you nailed him, Marianne. But another part of it, he talks about the Jeffrey McDonald case. And he says, here, I'll just play some of it. Here we go.
Woke it up. 9.
Okay, so he's talking about the Jeffrey McDonald case here. Take a listen.
With that type of job. The Jeffrey McDonald case, search it out. They talk about protecting crime scenes. They protected that crime scene down in Fort Bragg. I don't know what they call it now. The woke system woke it up. 9 years. 9. Think about this.
So for those that don't know, Jeffrey McDonald killed his pregnant wife, Colette, and his 2 daughters, Kimberly and Kristen. And he blamed it on Manson-like hippies. He even wrote pigs and blood in the wall to make it look like a Manson-type murder. But here, So they preserved the crime scene. It was at his Army base home in Fort Bragg. And Sean McDonough is talking about how they preserved the crime scene for 9 years. But then he talks about how the crime was solved. Keep in mind, this was 1970, February of 1970. I think February 17th of 1970.
Protected that crime scene. Jeffrey McDowell killed his wife and 3 kids. He said it was a Charlie Manson thing, right?
I mean, 2 kids, but if you want to include her unborn child, you could say 3.
It was a lie. 9 years, they sealed that thing up. And then when the DNA part came out, they convicted him. 9 years. That was fast.
Okay. Does anybody see the problem with that? With his version of events? You don't even have to know anything about the case to know that he's way off. I'll wait for the lag to catch up. Maybe not. So yeah, so there's no DNA in 1970. It was all solved with blood evidence. Each person in the family had a different blood type, and it was solved that way. And what makes it so crazy is you don't have to get into the transcripts to know that. It was made into a TV movie starring Carl Malden, where they explain it meticulously, go through the blood evidence. I put a link to it at my tweet. So, you know, it's not to shame Sean for getting a fact wrong. My point is this is how when you run fast and loose with the facts, this is how you can fool the Karen Reed crowd, right? These details matter in cases. And sure, you can get one wrong, but that is to say that the whole case was solved with DNA in 1970 is an issue. All right, let us get into, I thought we'd take a look at, just briefly, and then I think how long have we been going? Yeah, we've been going for almost an hour. Just for a little bit, revisit Paul O'Keefe's, just to prove my point, Paul O'Keefe's interview as to why victims' family members are the most powerful voice. I just thought we'd listen to maybe a little bit of it. Here we go.
My first question is obvious. How are you doing?
I mean, we're doing all right. Hanging in there. It's been
Hold on one second. Let me move forward.
time that no one wanted to listen to her, so she was strong and insisted on doing it. And my nephew was, he wanted to support her, so he said, if she does it, I'll do it. So I'm proud of them both for doing what they did.
Yeah, they were really strong when they got on the stand. It was amazing. Do you feel comfortable telling me, just from all that you've learned over the last 2.5 years, like what you...
Right. Kaylee and Patrick, his niece and nephew, were really strong when they were on the stand. That's why the state puts them up on the stand. They were there. They experienced Karen Reed every day. They experienced the fights. They knew what went on in the home. And when people tell their truth, just say it outright. It's very powerful. And it's a threat to anyone who has built a campaign on House of Sand, right? Out of total lies. It will crumble under one truth teller, two truth tellers. This is why they are public enemy number one.
What do you think happened that night?
Oh, we know what happened. We know that Johnny and Karen were arguing. It was kind of towards the end of their relationship. Things weren't well. They were drinking and arguing and fighting, and in an intoxicated state of rage and jealousy, she just decided that she was going to do something about it, and put the car in reverse and ran him down and left him there to die. And we figured it out as soon as she left the house that day when she came over. We didn't talk to any investigators, state police, nobody. You know, my mother had said, do you think she had something to do with this? And I said, we're not going to think like that. Went outside to the driveway to look at her car, and her car was gone. It was a blizzard. I knew what the driving conditions were like coming from the hospital to Canton, and I knew that they were going back to Dighton, which is a much further drive, so we put it together pretty quickly.
I was going to ask you that next, so you took the words out of my mouth. Was like, when did you realize? It was literally that morning.
Yeah, so I would say early afternoon when they came back to the house. You know, she wanted to come over and see the kids. Didn't really interact with them at all. Was there for probably a total of 30 minutes. Didn't say much or anything.
Is this someone who does something by accident? She came back to the house, was most interested in, I believe, deleting the Ring camera evidence if she hadn't already, and getting her stuff, never saying 2 words to the kid, and leaving. She wanted to see the kids so much that she couldn't say 2 words to them. Family put it together pretty quick. Is this the behavior of someone who doesn't know what they did, who did something by accident? Or is this the behavior of a guilty person getting out, getting their stuff, and covering their tracks? Is this the behavior of someone whose interest is in totally protecting numero uno, meaning themselves? Or is this someone who cares about how they affect other people? I mean, the family put it together. The kids needed comforting, but Karen Reed needed to get her stuff and get the evidence, so she needed to hightail it out of there.
And half of her time was upstairs gathering her things. Then my wife spoke to her on the phone on their way back to Dighton, and she told my wife that just have to remember the bad times, and I don't think I'm ever going to talk to you guys again.
Was that phone call what made you sure of what had happened?
Absolutely, yeah. We already, like I said, we put the pieces together on our own, and that just really solidified it. You know, why would somebody say that? Why would someone say, you know, if you didn't do anything, why would you say you're never going to talk to us again? Or why do you have to remember the bad times? Almost like justifying what you did.
Right. How would you have expected her to act in that situation if she hadn't done something?
More sad, empathetic, sympathetic. But like I said, when she was at the house, she barely said a word. You know, she wanted to be there for the kids. My nephew came home. My niece was already home by the time she got there, and her family arrived. And I sat down, my nephew in the other room, she sat right next to him. I explained to him that JJ's, you know, something happened and he's no longer with us. She didn't say a word. And right after that, she went upstairs and started gathering her belongings, and the next thing you know, they were gone.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's hard.
I'm so sorry. She already knew he was dead. Oh, my boyfriend's dead? Hey, what happened? She already knew. Oh my gosh, how am I going to go on? Are you okay? You guys going to be all right? What can I do for you? No, let me go get my stuff. I think I left my cell phone charger upstairs. Oh, JJ's dead? You know, it's just what makes me so angry about Michael Proctor is, you know, Karen Reed, as much as she complains that she's $5 million in debt and she's fighting the man, you know, in Vanity Fair, she's from a family of accountants and investment analysts. She probably has money socked away in investments, and she wanted the state to pay for her car payments during the time that they kept her car for evidence. I mean, she's got a million different ways to get money back and to save money and to be, as she called John O'Keefe, frugal, quote unquote. She's the frugal one. But I'm sure Michael Proctor is suspended now on his way to being fired, if he hasn't already been fired, which is the rumor, is figuring out how to struggle to pay for his kids and his own health care. I mean, come on no salary. How are you existing on no salary? Not being a financial analyst with these kind of connections to the feds, etc. I mean, this case is just darker and darker the deeper you go into it. And absolutely disgusting what Massachusetts did succumbing to this innocence fraud campaign. Massachusetts State Police. And what that means is what that tells every other innocence fraud campaign is that they will fold at the slightest bit of a media buzz. I mean, you heard the police officer, the police commissioner out there like, oh yeah, we're going to work to fight this corruption. What corruption? And that means it's like they're just announcing open season for any innocence fraudster who wants to come in and get a couple good police officers fired and sue our department, et cetera, et cetera. Because if Karen Reed gets off, there come the lawsuits. False arrest, false imprisonment, et cetera, et cetera. Denial of human rights, whatever you want. And oftentimes they just figure, these police departments, it's easier to pay them off than to fight it. It costs more to, fight it than to just pay them off. And then that creates they're like pigeons. They just keep coming back and back for more. Do you guys hear that Ryan Ferguson, another innocence fraud campaign, that guy, one of the people that he sued didn't pay fast enough. He's got another $38 million. So anyone who says crime does not pay, murder does not pay, has not been introduced to the wrongful conviction movement.
Strange behavior.
Very strange. Yep.
When did the whole narrative of her version of events become known to you?
Well, if you remember her first arraignment in Stoughton District Court,
yeah,
her attorney, David Unetti, had said this is a tragic accident. His client had no criminal intent. Mm-hmm. And then, fast forward to, I guess, when Alan Jackson came on board. And, they teamed up with a blogger to get their story that they concocted and put together and flooded out there. And people were only hearing one side of the story and coming to conclusions before actual evidence in the trial had actually begun. So a lot of the public was misinformed, because they were only getting one side of the story. And, we didn't come out and tell our side of the story or, what we thought or knew happened. We've kept a low profile and have been silent through this whole ordeal. But, now it's time. Now it's time.
Which is a mistake. So, either you have to have a spokesperson, and a good one, like a lawyer, to get your side of the story out there. But the best thing you can do, and I know I'm repeating myself, is to give interviews as a family.
Time for people to understand the truth. And, the jurors, we thank them. They did a great job. They put in a lot of hours, paid a lot of attention, worked hard. Unfortunately, they weren't able to come to, a consensus.
Because there were 2 turtle riders on the jury. That's my opinion.
As far as a verdict goes, but, we have another chance at it, and, hopefully the jury that we get for the second time around will, we'll see things more clearly.
So, just so I'm clear, you think this all started when Alan Jackson showed up, and Karen, throughout the course of this trial, you think she knows what she did?
She knows exactly what she did, and she's trying to buy and lie her way out of this.
Correct. Ding, 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 ding. I need sound effects for this show. Ding, 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 ding. She's trying to buy and lie her way out of this. Correct, Amundo. Correct. I mean, for those in the back, I mean, I don't know how you wake up the free Karen Reed people.
You know, refusing to take accountability for her actions. Not only that, but pointing the finger and blaming innocent people.
Yeah, talk to me about that. I mean, because the thing is, the story on the defensive side is not just, oh, she didn't do it. It's she didn't do it and all these other people did.
Yeah, I mean, she's pointing the finger at everybody. Everyone's lying except for her, according to her. I think we had 67 witnesses testify.
68.
68, I'm sorry,
That's
testify.
all right.
And according to them, they're all lying and they're not credible, and
Right, but the attention-seeking dog bite expert and the computer expert who they had to rewrite the software to avoid his errors in reading the software after he misread the software, those are the credible people. They're friendly, according to Aidan Carney. He's like, at least our experts are friendly. Like, that's the most important thing. Friendliness. We'll grade them on friendliness. A plus for friendliness. I mean, come on. Right. Everyone's lying but Karen Reed. And then the most credible witnesses are really the most murderous. With the most to hide. It's not Karen Reed with the most to hide. With a murder 2 accusation against her. It's the shady McAlberts. The shady McAlberts in the corruption in the police department. And and our media is partly to blame. Because they've been jumping on stories of police corruption for years and years and years. And they love stories that paint the police as villains. Did you guys hear the Central Park 5 are suing Trump? Did you guys hear this? For defaming them? Aren't they above being defamed after their... But he did get it wrong. He did say that they pled guilty, which they didn't. 4 of the 5 confessed. 1 confessed indirectly, made a spontaneous admission that was damning. Yusuf Salam, but his mom wouldn't let him confess. But 4 out of the 5, and then more confessed who made plea deals, who weren't part of the 5. But it's craziness.
Which, there's first responders that were just doing their job that day. Jen McCabe, Kerry Roberts, all they did was pick up the phone and help because she was asking for help. And according to them, the only one telling the truth is her.
Right. So I don't even know what to call them. We have a variety of names. The pink people. They turned on all those people first. Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe. But then how have they treated you guys over the course of the last year and a half?
Well, if you just go back to any video of us walking into court during pretrial hearings, yelling, screaming, calling us names, to this day, I don't know what I did wrong. I get messages all the time. But
you know what you did wrong, Paul? Paul O'Keefe, you had eyes and ears, and you saw Karen Reed's guilt clearly. With clear eyes, as you put it. That's what you did wrong. That was your crime. And she knows you're not a psychopath who's going to concoct a campaign, 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 a campa join a fraudulent campaign like hers. You're going to tell the truth. You won't lie for a killer, for your brother's killer. That's your crime. It's not a mystery, guys.
Or other ways of communication, you know, telling me that I'm a moron, I'm stupid, need to open my eyes and all this stuff. But I ignore those. I don't really care what people say to me, because this isn't about me. This is about my brother. And I like to think I know a little bit more of what's going on in the case than, you know, people that are just reading stuff on the internet. And there's been things said about me, accusations about me, all types of things that just aren't true. But again, I just brush it off because this isn't about me.
So if these people buy into this big conspiracy, right, that Brian Albert's a murderer or whoever, okay, if they buy into that, why are they turning on you guys? Has that ever made sense to you?
Because we don't believe in a crazy conspiracy theory that holds no merit, no evidence. I mean, we know these people. I mean, Jen McCabe has been a family friend of ours. She was friends with my sister. We've known her for over 10 years. She was very helpful with, you know, picking Kaylee up to and fro when he took over raising the kids. Kerry Roberts we've known for a very...
Right. Karen must have hated that. She was already the caretaker for Kaylee. So she's competition for Karen. And then she saw with eventually, I don't know fully, with clear eyes what Karen did, how she manipulated, how she got on the scene. Carrie seemed to be totally fooled and thought that Karen had lost her mind. But I think Jen McCabe was a little smarter. Saw that Karen Reed was play acting, putting on a show, getting herself sanctioned so she didn't have to talk to the police. It's not that they don't just believe the conspiracy theory. They know Karen Reed did it, and they have damaging evidence against Karen. So does Jen McCabe. Kerry Roberts, not so much.
For a very long time, right? And at the time, she didn't really know Jen McCabe or any of the McCabes or Alberts. And her testimony corroborated everything that Jen said, and the defense, I think, was scared of her and didn't even want to ask her any questions. They just wanted her off the stand. And I guess the negative or hate that's directed towards me, mostly me and my mother, is...
Yeah, see, this is like often a talking point on this side, that Kerry Roberts wasn't cross-examined because her testimony was so powerful. They just wanted the jury to forget her testimony. I mean, I disagree with that. I think that they just didn't know what else Kerry Roberts knew. If they had started cross-examining her, she could have gone into other areas that could have been damaging to Karen Reed. I think that's what that's about. But good way also, you know, you certainly limit, if you have 68 witnesses, you do limit the jury's memory by cutting it short and not cross-examining.
Because we support these people who are being falsely accused of something they didn't do, right? And their lives have been turned upside down and partially ruined. You know, Colin Albert, who was a 17-year-old kid at the time, his life has been turned upside down and ruined. I've gotten to know the Alberts through all this, and they're all good people. So just because we don't believe in a crazy conspiracy theory and we believe that Karen Reed is guilty of killing my brother, you know, they take it on us.
Right. There's also another element, and I'm going to go into it in another live stream, but of the Netflix special, which has had, I believe it's spearheaded by Gretchen Voss and a English company that has done some innocence fraud documentaries. And so they've tied up everyone in these contracts where they can't speak ahead of Karen Reed's trial, which again helps Karen. So it's like, I will tell you I mean, I hate to repeat myself. I'm going to leave this here. We can revisit this another time, but the best thing you can do, the best thing you can do if you're is to speak out and speak the truth if you're fighting one of these unbelievably well-moneyed, well-organized innocence fraud campaigns, is to speak out. That's what I have for today. I'm off tomorrow, Friday, but I'll be back Saturday at 6 p.m. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for listening.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen, like John, you were my mom. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen, like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud